I will give a brief introduction of mine. I head the analytics and data science for Prudential as a whole. So what Prudential is doing is that Prudential is going to disrupt the entire industry, as a insurance industry as a whole. Because we thought that instead of calling ourselves an insurance company, we will convert ourselves as a health and wealth tech, where we are going to get the real-time patients' data, like for example, into the ecosystem. And probably we are trying to do is, we will trying to make the health of our customers better. In that sense, we will able to provide a better insurance to them, as well as what we will do is that we will also provide like ammunitions or interventions that will help the customer to live a better life as a whole. So we have made an app that's not there in India itself. So we call it to be a Pulse by Prudential. So there are a lot of deep learning algorithms inside an app. And if you scan your face, it will tell you that whether you are stressed or not, what is your blood pressure, like for example, whether you have cataracts or not, hydration level, oxygen level. Based on that, it creates a 360-degree profile of your health. And based on that, there are three important interventions we bring in. The first thing is that we provide real-time insurance to them. Second is probably we recommend them exercises, right? And those exercises are not proctored exercises. So you can do the exercises and AI will say that whether your dips or, for example, whether you are doing yoga is correct or not, right? And then based on that, you can have a consultation of the doctors and provide, like for example, food for them. So this is the entire ecosystem, and we do not call ourselves as an insurance, but probably we call it to be a health and wealth tech, and that will going to disrupt the way we do insurance as a whole. So what we have done is that we have for that, like, see, it's a B2C app, right? So it's like, think of that Flipkart or Amazon. It's not that there are like for example, the level of transactions are more, but it is huge, and it is there in around 7 to 8, for example, countries, so Hong Kong and all. So what we have done is that we have built first thing is that we have built a data ecosystem or a data platform that will help you to ingest the data from the different sources. So one is through the app, we call it to an event. Second is that we bring data from the different ecosystems. For example, we will get the, for example, data from the agents, right? Those are sold offline, as well as different demographics data and, for example, everything. The volume of data is huge and the variety of data is huge. So we bring that into a real-time ecosystem where Kafka works. We put that ecosystem into a Delta Lake where the data gets cleaned and stored into an harmonized layer. Then we use a cloud data warehousing like Synapse to create our visualizations, as well as we also do like analytics as a whole. We answer the business questions, and also we run ML models, but those ML models are real-time models that are embedded inside an app, right? It can be a recommendation engine, content recommendation engine. It might be a computer vision, like for example, if you scan your face, it will tell you the hydration level. It might be like for example, it might be a neural search where a person is able to search the appropriate things inside an app. Now, my problem is I have a diverse ecosystems where I have product leads, I have engineering as well as data working together. So the first thing is that everybody tells I have like for example, attended a lot of talks and all. Brilliant deep learning MLs is pretty good, but why do you think is that only 13% of the models are get into the production, right? I think the major like what we need, what I will analyze is that if you have an ecosystem ready, for example, I have a data platform, I have ML ops, I have real-time dashboard. but still I invest around 10 million of my dollars in creating this entire ecosystem, but I'm not getting value out of it. So that's the first question, is what you define by a value. Now we are calling ourselves is that data science is data is a new oil, right? And the electricity also. So previously, as a data scientist, we are supposed to work in our laptops, like for example, reading research paper, but like for example, like the conditional modeling and all, we are not interacting, right? As we have matured ourselves, people are saying that when you implement data science as a whole, what is a business value that we are getting? So, and the sad part is that the implementation of business value doesn't lie itself with the data team, right? Because there are products, there are softwares, right? And you need to know that how we can get the value out of it, right? So what I've done is that I've taken other aspects of it where I'm trying to define that how we should be looking into the business matrix as a whole to define the data science charter as a whole, where we'll see the real business value coming in. So, yeah. So, first of all, 3 or 4 questions. How do we get analytics and data? How do we get value? I think this is a very, very vague term, right? Value is what? Like people tells us that I have invested so much of money, but I'm not getting value out of science, right? How product engineering and data team should work together. So, for example, for us, the ecosystem, we have products, we have engineering and data team. So when you are implementing a machine learning model, the implementation lies with engineering because it's a real time. When you think that what type of data science use cases you should bring, you cannot bring it actually, because this is a purview of a product team. That's why in order to bind these 3 things together, we are creating kind of a product KPI thing, and that will tie this entire thing together, right? How do we know that which are the AI and data science? This is a major question, that I can do anything, right? I can do a recommendation engine, I can do, like for example, neural search. I have learned about a new algorithm, I will implement it. But do you think that we're getting value out of it, right? No. And how do you build products that are driven by data? I think we're able to answer few questions out of it, will be great. So that's why I start with how product analytics is pretty important, how to define the right matrix, what are the different frameworks, what is a North Star matrix. I think this is a very, very important part we'll discuss. How the event-based, like in an app, right? When you are doing a transaction, how that gets created and how you can define the KPI as a whole, and how product analytics are help you to improve your products. So these are the learnings you can take off, and for any e-commerce, like who have like, for example, app, or they can implement that, right? So we're talking about the other part of it, where you know about the models and everything, but you're not getting out of a value, how you tie business metrics to a data science part, right? So the first question is product analytics. Product analytics is what the user is doing some activity inside an app, and I want to track it out, right? And that is a definition of product analytics as a whole. And we say that you cannot, so first of all, we have to measure it, right? So that we can improve it at a whole. How do you need to have a matrix? Why do you think you need to have that? Right, because when we talk about data scientists as a whole, when we talk about algorithms as such, we talk about precision, recall, NDCG, like for example, MAPE and all. But do you think that those metrics are able to add a real value to that, like for example, organization as a whole? So what you need to do is that you know to tie those metrics to a business matrix, and that is what we need to know, that like for example, how we are going to move that matrix. So when you're talking about a data science project, think of that is after the project is done, you are trying to move a matrix, a business matrix from point A to point B. And there are different ways to move it. Okay, there can be several ways, we'll discuss about that. But you have to select a lever that will able to get you the maximum value. And most of our data science projects fails because you have chosen a wrong matrix to move. For a churn model, right? So when I talk about churn model, the first thing is that like my churn, my like recall is pretty high, right? Close to 85%. My like for example, the other metrics, right? Recall, F score are pretty good. But how do I do that? What do you do that, right? I find the drivers of churn, right? So I find age is my, so when I, like we are running churn model, I think for us age, the devices, customers, like for example, locations are pretty important, right? So these are the drivers of the churn, but what do I do with that, right? Have you ever thought of it that whatever drivers you are getting from an explainable AI, how do I know that whether those drivers are the real drivers or not? So that's the next point, what I like, that whatever models that you are getting, the execution part of it is also pretty important, where different parties of the ecosystem will come in. Probably what you can do is that when the churn model gets done, you have to go to a customer and for example, launch a survey to know that probably these are the reasons where they are actually churning. In real life, nobody gets the output of the model and implement that into a business. Nobody does that. So I think that is where we have to know what are the, why do you need a metrics driven ecosystem where your data science, output of a data science or ML projects are just moving the metrics, and the success or the efficiency of your project goes if you're able to move the matrix from point A to point B in a better way, right? So product metrics, so when you think about any organizations as a whole, so for example, YouTube is hours watched, right? When YouTube implements its recommendation engine, do you think they care? They care about NDCG, they care about MAP and all, right? But if that recommendation engine is not able to increase the hours watched, I think that would never go live. Or for example, that is not like the business will not get value out of it, right? For Airbnb, nights booked, right? So whatever data science projects that you are doing or charter when you're defining, we should always try to improve this matrix as a whole. I'm not saying that so this matrix means this matrix, but we need to break it down. So I need to, the first, for example, business question comes to my mind is how do I increase the night book? So there can be different ways to do it, right? For example, when, for example, I wanted to build a content recommendation engine inside a Facebook, what I'm trying to do is I want to increase the average time spent, because average time spent means they're spending more time in Facebook, you are seeing more ads, and that ads will be converted into a revenue as a whole. So you have to think on those terms. So, yeah. So how to decide a right matrix? That's a very, very important part. One is that the goal of the company. So these are all like a high level term. I'm trying to explain you in a better way. Company, strategy, problems, and all. You always heard of this, like for example. But then what is happening is that when we are building a feature inside an app, what we need to do is that we need to back that with the data, right? So like somebody tells you that like when you're working, build me a neural search, right? Then you should ask the question that which of the metrics we are going to move and how that will be helping you in the product. So what I'm going to achieve, right? So for example, for example, a company like us, we build a neural search because people, we don't have enough engagement, and those engagement are driven by content. So they see the health content and like health videos, they come inside an app and they spend more time inside an app. They know us like this is a pulse that is there, and then what they do, they buy disease. So that is what I want to build, that whatever features you are building or whatever models you are building, you should know that what is the essence out of it, right? Then, for example, map usage stats and then prioritize, right? So now, tell me that this is a diagram where a user comes in, right? So percentage of users who are active, then he becomes active users. You are sending an invite to them, then this invite per sender, then it becomes a prospective user. You are like, this is regarding you are sending a campaign mail, right? Then you click on the campaign mail, then the campaign is regarding the registration and then it comes back. But this is a process that you can follow. For example, you are sending somebody a nudge, right? That this is an app and you wanted to have a registration out of it. Tell me, out of these 5, 1, 2, 3, 3 matrix, which of them, or 4 matrix, which of them should you prioritize? But why? But when that's a problem, right? When you are thinking in that way, when you are seeing about matrix, uh, like you cannot say by this term. So when you are looking at a matrix as a whole, you should know that like I should give you some other part of it also, right? You cannot tell, because then you tell, yeah, this is important, this is important. Now, next slide, I will tell you. See, now I have the base, right? So, for example, if your like for example, if your percentage of users sending, so you have to see that where the matrix base is already, right? So, for example, my churn rate is pretty low, 1% churn rate. Should I build a churn model to decrease it to 0.5, right? It is no point, right? But my registration rate is close to 10%, and then I know the lever is huge. So I can increase it from 10% to probably 50 or 60%. So that is a data science use case you should pick up, right? So that is a very, very important point, that upside potential of the matrix is very, very important, that what is the base and what type of increment you are doing, because I find out that many people say that they have done 60% improvement in a recommendation, or for example, purchase, right? So that is not there. So that is a pretty important, that how do you decide a right matrix, that depends on the upside potential of the matrix. Things to while choosing a right matrix is easy to understand. So why do you think Airbnb has not selected revenue as their base? They have selected number of like for example hotel book. Why?
Don't do it.
So for Uber also, number of rides is like one of the important part, right? Why do you think they are not doing the revenue, right? Why do you think so? Like, so why do you think that they have selected this matrix, right? So when you're selecting a matrix, it's pretty important to know the business ecosystem out of it, right? So for example, a marketplace that is driven by demands and supply as a whole. So what Airbnb has thought is that when they will select a number of rooms or book, that will take care of the demand side as well as supply side, because if there are more hotelers, that's the demand side, people will get more opportunity and they will buy it, right? So that is the one thing, that when you are it depends on the business value or the business ecosystem where your app is operating, right? So that is pretty important. So this is the entire thing, so from acquisition, activation, retention, referral and revenue. Say most of our use cases that we do online will be based out of it one of the way, right? So for example, you think about acquisition, right? So we can build an like a nest-based action model where we are trying to improve the acquisition. So you know that, right? Right content, right person, right channels, right at the right time, right? So this is acquisition. Activation is more or less, it talks about more on the like registration, or for example subscription, right? So how do you like develop a model that will help you to increase your subscription, right? What are your subscription rate, right? Retention is next one, right? So we always build a recommendation engine, or for example neural search to improve the retention as a whole. Referral is something you are sharing, right? So for example your NLPs and all, to understand that whether your like contents are getting referred or not. This is last part, and the last part is revenue, right? CLTV and everything will drop down to that. So these are the descriptions and examples, right? So these are the retention, adoption, user engagement, revenue. These are the description of the matrix, and these are the like examples. So you're like so most of the data science, like for example project, if you think about retention as a whole, I am trying to decrease the churn rate. So that is a churn model that you develop, right? Like for example user engagement. So you develop a recommendation engine. But if that recommendation engine doesn't increase your time inside an app, so it is, you are trying to measure the time, so it should increase the time that they are spending inside an app, because you are doing a better recommendation. If that is not improving, whether you have a high NDCG or whether you have a high recall, that will not be able to effectively, and those recommendations should not be implemented into the systems as a whole, right? So I think this is a very, very important thing, that you define the matrix and then say that how you have to move the matrix, and then you use your, like for example, data science or any analytics use case to move it, right? So right now, if somebody gives you this one, where do you think you wanted to, so if somebody tells you that this is a green field, you have acquisitions like app, you have acquisition, activation, retention, and this part. So which place you wanted to concentrate your most effort? What do you think? So which one would be the most important part of it? So whether you are to develop a propensity model to increase a sign up, or do you think you wanted to build a propensity model to probably for the revenue? So that's a point that, see, there is 100%, right? So only 15% of these people are actually going to sign up, right? Your funnel is broken in that way. So probably this is the one of the areas I like to concentrate as a whole, right? Because it's only 15%. So probably I will try to get all the data science or analytics project that explains me why the sign up has been less, right? That can be a perspective or it can be an ML model it will run, right? And then this would be backed by a lot of A/B testing and hypotheses, because I don't know. So product managers will, for example, create around 10 to 15 hypotheses, and you have to run the models or A/B testing to prove that what is the reason. First of all, why the signups are not improving, and second is what are the interventions we need to bring to improve that sign up, right? So what is a North Star matrix? So North Star matrix defines a success and a failure of a product as a whole, and all your data science or everything that you are doing, we're trying to move the North Star matrix from point 1 to point 2, point A to point B, right? Now your question is, there can be different ways to do it, right? So I will select a lever that will move my North Star matrix at a least effort and where I can get the maximum leverage, right? So that is a pretty important part. So for Airbnb, it is number of nights booked. Uber is rides per week. Spotify is time spent in like, for example, listening. Facebook is daily active users, right? So nobody is looking into the revenue part of it, because these are the numbers like that is very, very easy to implement, because when you break this up into L1 and L2 metrics that will show you, it is very, very easy to understand. And for example, when you like, it is easy to measure as well as, for example, experiment. So this is the example I wanted to give. So for example, this example is for a SaaS, right? So software as a service business. You have a profit, you have a revenue and the cost, right? The revenue is broken up by paying user and average revenue per user. Then paying user is divided into new paying user and repeat paying user. New paying user is trial user conversion rate into previous paying user into 1 minus churn rate, and this conversion can be to different things, mobile, web and call also, right? Now see, this is a North Star matrix, when a profit is a North Star matrix, then you break up into L1 and L2 matrix. So there are around 4 to 5 metrics that or levers that you can move to improve it. How do I know which is the best one among them? So people who like, you run a data science project where you trying to develop a like a propensity model where you are trying to say that I wanted to see that which of the like for example, which of the medium my acquisition is more. But probably if you think about, this is the most, for me this churn rate is a pretty important part, because if you think about getting the new users into the app, is costly, right? It depends on the campaigns and all, right? So that's, but retaining a user into the ecosystem is easy. So probably to decrease the churn rate or increase the engagement rate, probably I would run a recommendation. So for example, that is how an analytics charter is made. So I think if I want to decrease this as a whole, this will increase a lot, right? So these are the points. So what is the upside potential of each matrix? How do you think we can move the needle? And what would be the revenue impact? How many resources? And what matrix gives you a best ROI as a whole? So whatever data science matrix you have should be always be tied to a business matrix, and you should know how you are going to move that. Because if this is wrong, then probably you take 10 months to develop a next best action model that says that you are trying to increase a new paying user to maybe 2%, then business will say I've spent around $100 and you are saying that a new paying user is giving me, for example, incremental $2, right? So that it is not correct as a whole. So this is again a case of Uber Eats where it's a North Star matrix. These are the primary metrics and these are the L2 metrics, right? Now you know that which of the metrics to pick up and do, for example, analytics or data science, that will have a huge impact on this one. So this is a how, so first of all, product vision is made. So that's a different discussion, how a product vision is made. Product vision is, for us, we wanted to have an ecosystem that will make the health and wealth of our customers better. So that's a product vision. Then you define the matrix, measure the matrix, evaluate the matrix, and then select the top matrix and do a experimentation out of it. So this is not easy, right? So data science project is not that you run a churn model once and get out of it, right? Everything that you do should be backed by, for example, experimentation. So this is the part I wanted to see. So experimentation, one way of experimentation is the A/B testing as a whole. So whatever like models or, for example, whatever analytics you have to do, that should be backed by experimental things. So that is A/B testing, and you have to do it continuously, right? So this is an event-based tracking. So this is home screen, how a product analytics is made. Home screen, search, choose, add, checkout, and pay. When you do these activities online, this trail through the event-based, you will get that how many people have clicked on home screen, how many people have searched. These all are events are getting generated, right? And those will be there in your data warehouse, how you defined it, right? Through Kafka or some other way. Now with this, so this is a way you get the data, right, into the ecosystem as a whole. And then based on that, there will be users. It will be naming Ankit, whose favorite food is noodles. He has registered into the app at 10th December, acquired from organic, number of orders are 50 and preference is veg. And then he's screening open it. So he has opened the screen of that app at 9 p.m. He has searched it, he has choose and pay. Now you have these type of data, and then you decide, for example, how you want to create analytics case out of it, right? So these are the 5 things you have to do in a product analytics. User flow, I think all of us know, funnels, segmentation and cohorts, right? So these are the 4 things we know. So user flow means whatever users is doing inside an app, I'm seeing it, and probably I will put interventions where I wanted to improve the UX flow, right? So where I think the customer experience is broken and all, right? Second is the funnel part of it. So you see that home, search, result, restaurant, add, checkout and pay. So probably there is a huge drop when he is result and he's clicking on the restaurants, right? So whatever results you are getting, people are not clicking on that. That means there is a problem in the search. So your charter, analytics charter is to improve the search part of it, right? So funnel analysis is this one. This is a funnel. I don't want to explain how. So this funnel will try to improve it. So it will create a funnel. You will find a drop off, improve the experience, and then connect the value and then iterate. I think segmentation we all know. I don't want you to get into detail. Cohort we all know. Last part is, I think, probably important, takeaways. Think analytics and data science cases inside the product as moving the North Star matrix. Break the North Star matrix into L1 and L2. Select sets of metrics that can impact the North Star by considering the upside potential. There are different levers to move the sets of metrics, but select the best metrics that move the lever. This is not a one time. So data science projects require patience and number of iterations, right? They require experimentation, and always think of that whatever the output of the model is, you have to validate through external interface. So it might be customer review, it might be, for example, because if you rely on that and you see, for example, the model accuracy is not improving, it is not always the algorithms will serve that, right? Probably you have not understood how the, for example, customers are behaving in the system. I think here I end up.